Can't you make like an athletics roll or something like that? See if you can avoid taking damage.
I should do like a dodge roll thing with her like.
Yeah, do another acrobatics for me.
Acrobatics should be able to reduce the falling damage.
Yeah, I agree.
And I got a stunt on that.
Nice. I will say.
I do like the tuck and roll thing, or.
Because of the stunt, roll me 2d4. You got 2 stunt points, roll me 2d4. That's how much damage you absorb. 6. You only took 8 points of damage from the fall.
Okay.
2 stories?
He rolled. I mean, he got a stunt. So
yeah,
he got a stunt. 6 points
and
of damage.
I'm surprised that
I'm a Kunari.
after reducing damage that much, it would do that much.
Yeah.
Oh, but yeah. Whatever. I'll take it. Like the potion, I think should be able to cover it.
Okay, Delwyn, you're up.
Why won't you hit me? Here. Now I'm just gonna punch the thing. I'm not happy.
Punch the Archdemon. Oh my god.
Not.
Go ahead, roll for attack roll.
Please hit. This is going to be the most epic thing ever if you hit.
Does 21 hit?
Does that
Yes,
what's the
it'll
plus
hit.
one?
Yes, it'll
Yes.
What's
hit.
the plus one?
Roll
And
for
I
damage.
stunted,
never mind,
which
doesn't
is
matter.
exactly what I wanted to do.
What?
Okay.
Okay.
So, combat stunts.
You just punch the pretty much the ultimate evil of this
I'm
world.
gonna spend 2 points to threaten it,
Okay. It's threatened.
and the other 3 to lightning attack. So I'll do damage on the first attack first.
Okay.
Damage is... Oh man. Damage is so many dice.
Nice. That's good.
I like to hear. That's what I like to hear.
There's a nice words to hear right now.
Huh?
21. Nice.
Plus, I haven't rolled yet.
Oh, okay.
Plus 1, plus 2. Oh, I can roll it. Max, where are you?
26. Beautiful.
26. 2 of it
26.
is fire damage.
It's looking really bad.
Okay. I'm basically saying, would you just friggin' hit me already?
Nice.
So I'm threatening it, and it has to make a willpower self-discipline versus my strength intimidate.
Self-discipline? Okay, roll your intimidate.
Did I send
Ooh, I rolled pretty low.
did I send the woman off on her way, or she's still not?
I rolled lower.
Yeah, it still beat you. Yeah, I rolled
Still
low.
like, you're a puny mage and I don't care about you. Okay, so I gotta make my second attack.
Mm-hmm. 18. That will hit. Roll for damage.
And everything but the last... Actually... 1, 2, 3, 4 damage of it is penetrating.
Okay. That was 19 damage?
Yep.
Okay.
And it's the same thing with the other one. 4
Alright,
damage is
it's
penetrating.
looking very close to... It's looking really bad. It's looking very weakened. Maximilian, I think, is up.
Alright.
And then Sanaya. If you set this up well, this might be it. If you set this up well.
First of all, I'm gonna yell out, Gunail, forget about me, protect the warden! And then I'm gonna attack with an aim.
Alright.
18.
That will hit. Roll for damage. Hope
Aim
you
for the
don't-
legs.
And hope
Aim
you
for
don't
the
make...
legs.
Hope you don't make the killing blow.
Yep,
That
I'm
could be
gonna
bad.
try and pull this blow. 3d6.
I hope this...
Oh dear, this is it.
No stunts though. Okay, 21.
21. Alright. It's still up, but it looks like the next swing will probably kill it.
I'm gonna sweep low and go for the leg.
Okay. Sanaya's up. Hope that she doesn't miss.
Do your duty, Warden!
Alright, let me see how I roll.
Nice. That's what we like to see.
Delwyn. When it reaches Sanaya's turn, she turns towards your direction and she yells out, "Brother, you stand now for our family. Make us proud, brother." And she strikes. As she strikes, the Archdemon screams, yelling out as purple, mucously, blood-like venom gushes out of his throat as she pierces right through the heart. There is a big, giant glow that starts to emanate from the wound, and the entire area around you starts to swirl with dark energy. It wells up into the Archdemon's body, and then it just explodes outwards, knocking Maximilian and Delwyn and everybody else backwards. Gwenail almost gets thrown back into the burning building, but he stops himself.
I hit the door instead.
And as soon as the explosion occurs, the Archdemon falls to the ground. It starts to disintegrate into a black mist, which transfers immediately towards Sanaya, and Sanaya drops her great sword and she falls over, unmoving.
Well, Delwyn basically scrambles to his feet and runs over.
I think I probably should have asked what happens when a Grey Warden actually kills an Archdemon.
The Grey Warden dies. Well, Lealden might not know that, so.
But I now know, as far as Dragon Age lore, that's how it happens.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. What are you guys doing? Lealden, you're coming out with the woman who's wounded.
So we can just move up now, right? Start of combat stuff.
Yep, you're out of combat.
Yeah, right now,
over.
I'm just gonna lay on the ground, breathing hard, and not trying to get up. Just.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Delwyn just scrambles over to his sister and he's kind of like shaking her.
I kind of I'll say something over here. I'll say over here. I let the woman. I think I gave the woman my last health potion, hoping that helped her with her leg.
Sanaya doesn't respond.
She heads off on her way. I'll go over to Max. Man, you guys actually did it.
Is it over?
I don't see the Archdemon anymore.
And she did it. Can't believe she did it. Help me up, will you?
All right.
Well, let's not do that again.
Looks like you took a beating out there.
You okay?
Fine. Bit bummed out I missed out on the action, but at least I did something.
Well, guess we can't lose track on the small things. Of the small things.
I'll be moving with him a bit close to the others. So feel free to jump back over to Delwyn and Gwenail.
Yeah.
Delwyn, Gwenail, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, at this point,
Medicine
Delwyn's
roll.
just kind of got his sister, like, clutched to his chest. And,
I guess I'd like do one of the things like check her pulse or whatever and stuff like that as she's doing that as much as I can and whatnot to check medicine roll. I already know what the result's going to be and stuff like that, but I feel like I should still make my character do the roll anyway, so did, right?
You check the pulse, and yes, it does. She does not seem to have one. Gwenail, as you are, as you realize what has happened, on the corner of your eye, you see a faint golden glow. This is a vision that only you see, nobody else. You see the faint form of Eveline, and she seems to be holding, standing next to another form, and they're holding hands.
Can I recognize the form at all?
The form appears. The second form next to Eveline looks like an elf, a female elf, completely out of armor. However, you only see this for just a few seconds, and then the image fades away.
I put my hand on Darwin's shoulder.
Yeah, he kind of just flinches. Not like shrugging it off kind of thing, but just taken out of how he's feeling a bit.
I hold the mirror up to her to see anything like or around where that was at, or at her, see if there's anything I can show. Maybe if I can.
You can hold up the shard, and you can see the. You can basically show Delwyn what you had just seen a few seconds ago, which is the image of a faint golden form of Eveline holding hands with a female elf who looks a lot like the silhouette of your sister, Delwyn.
So I go.
Owen
Yeah.
kind of just bats it away when he sees it. He looks up, and it's clear that he's been crying, albeit very silently. And he just kind of glares and says, I don't give a crap about your maker nonsense. I don't give a crap about your spirits in your afterlife and any of that. I don't have a sister.
I step up and I say, she died a hero. All of Kirkwall owes her.
Sets her back down and stands up. Kind of just wipes his eyes off with his sleeve. Fact is, she still died. Look, clean up, do whatever you want.
We should see how the others are doing.
Indeed.
So, everything around you, as soon as the Archdemon has died, things around you begin to die down. It's gradual, it's not immediate, but the Darkspawn no longer seem to be nearly as organized as they were before. And you make your way through the city, helping as many people as you can. Fortunately, you were able to discover that the choices that you made as far as who to send to which districts were actually very good ones. Thanks to Nathan and Jody, they were actually able to save many people from harm in the docks. By putting Gwenail and Gwenail's mom in the Hightown district, they were also able to effectively make quick work of archdemons jumping out from
Archdemons?
I'm sorry, from archdemons. All these archdemons that are from Darkspawn. Excuse me. There's all these archdemons that popped up. These
We only have one
Darkspawn.
Grey Warden, that's not fair.
Yes, the Darkspawn that from different alleys and different locale of Hightown. Between Vic's grenades and the drones of Cogs and Plim were able to keep things under control, where the Darkspawn were spewing out. This is a huge success for Kirkwall, and everyone is cheering, calling out the names of their heroes. Not of Cain, but of the guardsman Maximilian, the scholar Gwenail, the legendary wielder of Nimitos, Lealden, and the great the scrapper, the
Brawler?
yeah, brawler, I guess. The fearless brawler, Delwyn, along with their companions as well, and the crew of the Tempest Stream.
The Skyrits.
The Skyrits, yes. Cain has not emerged from his room. I think the man has probably been way too humiliated to show his face during the celebration and festivities that are celebrating around the city. Of course, there are many casualties. So this is a victory, but not without sacrifices. You know that the next morning, you all are going to have the ritual to travel back in time is going to be taking place. So this is you and your companions will all be gathered you guys will be gathered in the room, in the chamber where the ritual is finishing up. And Gwenail is checking to see its status, and it should be ready to go the next morning. During this time...
Actually, by the way, before heading back and stuff, because I don't know, I think Gwenail would have been still feeling weirdness, because you said there would still be Darkspawn scattered about, right?
Yeah.
Like, before actually heading back to check on the ritual and stuff like that, as we like started disperse and stuff like that, I think Gwenail would blow off some steam and be going Darkspawn hunting for the leftovers to help out.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever affairs you want to take care of, go right ahead.
I will punch all the things.
I might, in like a few words actually, even Estelle one of us that and stuff, is we lost a lot here, and I want to clean up as much as possible.
Yes, you can definitely do that.
Did Gwenail bring her sister back with her? If not, Maximilian will carry her. I mean, Delwyn, Gwenail. Did Delwyn bring her sister with her? Oh,
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah, he did. He would have.
Yeah, good.
Jody reunites with Maximilian. They embrace. And when she does, she says, "You've got a little..." She takes out a handkerchief and she wipes off some of the blood that had spattered on some of the archdemon blood that had spattered on your forehead a little bit.
Yeah, the Archdemon didn't want to go down willingly. Had to give me a nice hint.
Well, maybe later, you and I can go down willingly. She gives a grin.
Whoa.
I like how you think.
That was...
Whoa!
We have to put a PG-13 on this thing now. That was a little...
No. That was totally okay.
That was totally in character. That
means nothing.
Totally in character.
People know why why people play our games, right?
Yes. The captain arrives and she tells Lealden, I'm not sure if Logan is listening to me though, but
No, I'm hearing you. Sorry,
Oh,
this
okay.
is just me to make sure no other noise feeds into
Okay.
this.
she says to Lealden, "Good job, brother. I'm sure our parents protected you well."
Thank you, and good job to you and Archer and Winill's mother. Saved lives today.
While you guys are gathered there, a mirror on the other side of the room begins to shimmer. And within it appears the woman that you all had seen from the Tower of Magi, Morrigan.
And here you are. Why, I'm not surprised.
Yes, the woman says, "Here we all are. I see that you have succeeded in not only finding all of the components for the ritual, but have also defeated the Archdemon. Congratulations. The fifth blight, is officially over."
Why, thank you. As always, it came with a great cost. So what happens now?
"That depends," she says. "That's why I'm here. Because what happens now not only affects this timeline, but all other timelines." Nathan, at this point, pops up. Before you say anything, he looks a little cautious. "You're not actually who you say you are you?" Nathan says. I didn't say anything right away because I wasn't positively sure. But I had a dream last night, and you slipped up a bit when you were sending me visions. Something just didn't make sense. "You're not Morrigan, are you?" Nathan says. The woman in the mirror says, "That is not completely accurate," she says. "I used to be known as Morrigan." Nathan looks a little confused. "What do you mean used to be known as Morrigan?" Morrigan says, "Let's start from the very beginning." Story time, guys. This is where so let me give a disclaimer. This is the best I can do to give the whole background story of this game, taking time travel in consideration. I tried my very best to cover all the holes, all the plot holes, but that doesn't mean that you can't find any holes there. So I did the best I can. So have an open mind.
Suspension of disbelief.
Suspension of
everyone.
disbelief. Have an open mind. Time travel is hard, but I wanted to do it, and I'm trying to do it as much as best as I can that it makes sense. So it might be a little difficult.
Okay.
I will try to do it explain it in character, but if you need clarification, if something doesn't make sense, I'm going to be throwing a lot of information at you. We'll talk about it. We'll discuss it out of character so it makes sense. So I'll try to go it very slowly because there's a lot I'm going to tell you now that Morrigan is telling you.
Most people are very forgiving. Timey-wimey ball, I believe, is good.
What if I told you that the timeline that you know from your home, where you came from, what if I told you that that timeline that you know very well was not the original timeline? As far as you can tell, that's always how the timeline went. But it had been changed before. Let's start from the beginning. As you know, Jastiel is a plague or pestilence demon who induces magical sickness on its prey and feeds off of them. But it hungers for more. If it does not feed off of the sick often enough, it will perish. A blight places thousands of people in a very sickly state, and during this time, a pestilence demon would thrive. In the original timeline, the timeline that you are not familiar with, that you did not even know exist, the fifth blight does not occur until much later. It was originally believed that the fifth blight was caused after the Darkspawn discovered the old god, Urthemiel, and tainted it to become the next archdemon. In truth, it was a creature known as the Architect, who inadvertently began the blight, despite his intentions of ending it altogether. However, in the original timeline, before the Architect was able to accidentally waken the archdemon, the Architect was slain by a party of adventurers, thus preventing the blight from occurring in 930 Dragon. Those group of adventurers are the four of you. The four of you originally were supposed to be the ones to take out the Architect and prevent the blight from happening. Many years ago, the pestilence demon, Jastiel, possessed a young Somniari girl. Your ancestor, Nathan, she says to Nathaniel. Through the girl's connection with the Fade, she also had the ability of foresight, the ability to see glimpses into the future. Through the girl's powers, the demon that was possessing her saw the fifth blight, but he saw that by the time the fifth blight would arrive, he would be long dead. So he realized that a way to satisfy his hunger was to make sure that the blight happened earlier. And through her visions, he found a way to do it. At the time, he was not powerful enough to stop the four of you, to stop the four adventurers from slaying the Architect. So, he came up with a different plan. In order for his plan to work, he needed to place himself in suspended animation until just the right time. This would keep him alive long enough so that he could survive to the beginning of an earlier scheduled blight. So he tricked the girl into sealing him into a magical box that is typically used to imprison powerful demons, and she kept the box safely within the confines of the vaults of Orzammar. This is all starting to sound familiar to all the players, right?
Yep.
Little did she know that Jastiel wanted her to do this all along. She thought she was sealing the demon so that it would not escape. But he had planted a fake vision that would ultimately free himself again at the right time, when one of her ancestors had the capability to do so. This fake vision had her write a message that would be passed down and given to her ancestor many years later. An ancestor whose last name would be Mrs. Finnenstein. The message gave Miss Finnenstein fake instructions on how to destroy this demon once and for all, and it required her to retrieve the box. That was when you, Lealden, was sent by Cain to retrieve the box in Orzammar. Lealden, you accidentally freed Jastiel, just like Jastiel predicted you would do in his future visions. And Jastiel possessed the nearby mage, Hector, your father, Gwenael. As soon as it possessed Hector, the demon pushed him to stop his arcane warrior mantle and instead start working on a time travel ritual. Unfortunately for him, the demon had its grasp on Hector for quite some time. For quite some time now. And by 931 Dragon, the ritual was complete. At least enough to go backwards in time, not necessarily forwards. And so Gestiel used Hector to travel back to the year 910, which is where you guys are from when the story hole began. You all are from 910. Here, it pulled the 4 adventurers into the Fade before you had a chance to kill the architect. So he travels back in time at 910, and he pulled you all into the Fade before you had a chance to kill the architect.
But for someone like me, it would only have seemed like an instant, since it was just as I opened it.
He pulled you in before you even became a group, before you even met each other. Again, this is all in the original, we're still in the original timeline here. By now, Gestiel was powerful enough to do so. He was powerful enough to pull each of you individually into the Fade. Within the Fade, he corrupted you, and you went mad. Eventually, you were enslaved, completely obedient to your new demon master. All things seemed to go to plan. The architect did awaken Erthemiel, and the 5th blight had begun. So now we are in the 2nd timeline, which is the timeline that we know from Dragon Age Origins, the game. So idea is the events of Dragon Age Origins, the game, time has already changed. That was not what originally happened. Everybody follow so far?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the big twist. What happened in the game is not what really happened originally.
That's the alternate.
It's not. That's the alternate. That wasn't what was supposed to happen. What was supposed to happen was you guys beat the architect so that the blight didn't actually occur around Alistair's time, and the blight ended up happening much later.
Right.
But Gestiel didn't want that to happen because he would not live to see the 5th blight.
Correct.
So, as long as you guys are good up to that point.
Yep.
The architect awoken Arthemiel, and the 5th blight had begun. Unfortunately for the demon, 2 Grey Wardens united the nation to defeat the blight within just the first year. Kale Kuzland and Alistair Therin.
Yeah.
So now, the demon had to kill the 2 Grey Wardens. Unfortunately, by this point, history had already changed. Hector had died at the hands of the Grey Warden when Kale rescued the Circle of Magi from Uldred. Thus, Hector never managed to finish the time travel ritual. Instead, the demons used Delwyn and Gwenaël, who again were under his control, enslaved, to finish the ritual. Most of the ritual had been completed, at least enough for Delwyn and Gwenaël to figure out how to come up with a version that should work. I'll bet it took them until 932, which is now, 932, to complete it. Once again, the adventurers attempted to cast the time ritual to send the demon back in time, only this time the goal was to get rid of the 2 Grey Wardens. But something went wrong. Through the ritual that Delwyn and Gwenaël came up with, it sent the 4 adventurers back in time with it as well. Gestiel was the only person who was supposed to get back in time, not the 4 adventurers. Since the same soul cannot physically be in the same instance of time in the material world, it forced you 4, your versions of yourselves, into the future, while your enslaved evil selves went to the past. You guys get that?
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So your evil versions
Which is
swapped
why
with
everybody
you.
thought that we killed all those important people.
Now it's making sense. Since this, okay, meanwhile, back in 910, so you guys got moved into the future, your evil selves got moved to the past. Back in 910, the demon Gestiel and his slaves, your future selves, your evil future selves, systematically kill Kale Kuzland, and Alistair, along with other notable figures like Shally Hawk and their family. The four then tried to slay Flemeth. The four also went searching for Morrigan, who was also a very important part of slaying the Archdemon. And they find her, still very young, in the Kokari wilds with Flemeth. The four try to slay Morrigan and Flemeth, and they almost managed to do so. But in the end, Flemeth ended up killing the four and barely managed to escape herself. That's why Liam and the rest of them found your bodies in the Kokari wilds, because you guys were trying to find Morrigan and kill Morrigan and ended up fighting Flemeth.
And so our evil selves perished to Flemeth.
Your evil selves perished under the hands of Flemeth after they had already killed the wardens, the future wardens.
Well, that's good. I was afraid we were going to have some weird time paradox thing. At least it's situated out.
That was when Liam and Dominique discover your bodies. They also discover a copy of the time travel ritual in Gwenaël's pocket. Only they don't actually know what the spell is, and they can't decipher it. Through the years, the ritual, the time travel ritual that was in Gwenaël's pocket, is passed around to several mages and scholars to decipher what the contents of the parchment actually is, and it finally ends up in the hands of a scholar in Denerim, who kept it locked in a drawer when he wasn't trying to decipher it. That's why the ritual was in that locked drawer in the beginning, in session 2.
And we showed up in Denerim.
When you showed up. So that's how that ended up in the drawer. It remained there as the Blight took over Thedas, and eventually, quite ironically, ends up back in the hands of Gwenaël. This Gwenaël.
The good Gwenaël.
By that point, it was already too late for Thedas. With no Alistair and no Kael Kuzland, Ferelden was never united against the Blight, and the nation fell to the Darkspawn. That's this alternate timeline now.
Alright.
So with this third alternate timeline, the Archdemon wins, and the Blight continues for many years as Gestiel feeds. It is also during this third alternate timeline that Gestiel meets Delwyn, and they begin to create their pact, and the cycle continues. Morrigan realizes the change in the timeline from the world within the Illuvion. Her love, Kael Kuzland, who was with her at the time, tried to return back to Thedas to fix everything. But as soon as he returns back to the material plane, he disappeared from existence. This infuriated Morrigan, for the people responsible for her death and this infuriated Morrigan as she searched for the people responsible for the death of her love. She first discovers that it all started with a foolish Qunari who unleashed Gestiel upon the world. So she sends a bounty hunter. Morrigan sends a bounty hunter, Balin the Blade, to track Lealden down and stop him from freeing Gestiel in the first place. Balin the Blade fails. Everybody's good up to that point.
Yep.
Yes.
All making sense.
It's all your fault, Lee. Yep. No.
Meanwhile, because of her battle with the four of you, your evil selves, it left Flemeth very weak. She could not stay in her current body for as long as she could. So, in order to save both her and her daughter, she ends up taking over Morrigan's body. Nathan's eyes grow wide. So you're Flemeth. Morrigan nods. Morrigan's Flemeth. Now with me in Morrigan's body, I decided that it was not safe to remain in the material world, and in order for me to try to help fix the timeline back to the way it was, I went into the Illuvion. However, the other Morrigan, the Morrigan that was infuriated, the one that fell in love with Kael Kuzland, bumps into Flemeth Morrigan, So real Morrigan runs into Flemeth Morrigan in Illuvion world.
Okay. Can imagine that encounter would be a little awkward.
Yes, the real
I always knew you
Morrigan.
wanted to steal my body.
The real Morrigan was not pleased at all that her mother took her body. I was trying to explain to her what had happened, but she would hear none of it. She did not believe a word I said, so she attacked me, and I defended myself. At the end, Morrigan did not survive. I tried to prevent it, but she forced my hands. I figured, however, thanks to you, you might be able to fix everything back to the way it should be, if you decide to do that. At this point, I realized that the only people who can actually fix this whole mess, after I had already killed my daughter, are the original 4 who caused it in the first place. While Morrigan tried to kill the 4 of you, I decided to take a different approach and convince the 4 of you to try to clean up your own mess, your future selves' own mess. So I reached out to Nathan, and I've been guiding you ever since to acquire what you needed, the tools you need to make a very important decision. There are many ways that this can go. As far as I can tell, you have 3 choices. 1, you can go back in time into the Fade. From there, you can draw your evil selves into the Fade. That way you both can exist in the same spot, because you're in the Fade, you're not in the material plane. And defeat your evil selves. This will prevent Alistair and Kaelin from being killed. Kael, sorry. This will prevent Alistair and Kael from being killed. You would then destroy the time ritual found in Gwenael's pocket, so nobody else goes back in time to undo your fix. Thus, resetting things back to the way it was before you even got involved into this whole mess. You can return back to your original timeline and live out your lives just as normal, knowing that your timeline is the first altered timeline. Choice number 2. You can go back in time and destroy Gestiel in the Fade, freeing your other selves before they get brainwashed and enslaved in the first place, which also means they will never go back in time to kill Kael Kuzland and Alistair either. Your evil selves will simply be erased from existence. Freeing them also allows your evil selves to be erased from existence. Freeing them also allows your other selves to slay the Architect and prevent the Blight from happening until much later, way past 930. This will reset things back to the original timeline. But in order to prevent a paradox, you must remain in the Fade until your other selves perish naturally on the material plane, at which point you can then return back to Thedas and live out the rest of your lives from that point. Notice that doing out of character, if you do this, you guys will stay in the Fade, like I said, until you guys perish.
Natural means, right?
Which means that you guys would come back into the timeline at 930. Which means that Jodie will be as old as she is now when you come back, Maximilian.
Oh,
you see what I'm saying here? You see what I'm saying? She will be older when you come back, as opposed to really young. So I'm just throwing it out there. Choice number 3. You can just leave things the way they are now. You've already slayed the Archdemon, so the Blight is over. People can now rebuild. Now, all you have to do is destroy Gestiel in this time and live the rest of your lives in the future the way it is now. This is the least complicated of the 3 and gives the world far less risk of paradox. with this choice, you are essentially saying, we've been messing with the timeline long enough. We need to stop and start over with a clean slate from this point forward. Those are the three choices that I believe you have. Out of character, this is a very important choice because you guys are dictating the state of Thetis for every future Dragon Age RPG campaign that I do from this point on. Dragon Age, as the franchise, has always been about the world, the state of the world, not just a specific hero. So even though the heroes change, the world is what stays and lives on. So you get to decide what the Thetis, state of Thetis will be the next time I get a new batch of players who will be in the Dragon Age campaign. They will then begin with the universe that you chose in this moment. That's why this decision is very important. You get to decide what happens from this point on, every single campaign that I ever do with Dragon Age RPG.
Out of character, can I just...
Bravo!
Well played.
Thank you.
That was...
Yes.
And I feel bad because I'm being called for lunch at the same moment, too. You want us to make the decision now, or next?
I would like for you to make the decision now, because that's how I'm going to plan out what happens next. So
I don't know about you, but I don't like being manipulated or living in a fake world. I say we go into the Fade and finish this demon once and for all.
That would be
which choice was
one of the
that?
best
1, 2, or
choices.
3? The first,
The second choice.
the second choice. So revert back to the
Can I
original
highlight something real
timeline.
quickly?
Yeah. And killing, you steal,
Just you.
and we
I
have
can
to live
actually-
our lives
do you mind?
before we get back.
I might actually kind of sort this into the kind of like Paragon, Neutral, and Renegade option type of thing.
I don't think it's
Because-
none of them are either.
It's not so clear.
No, I'm saying
cut.
kind of. Let me explain this. Like the first option,
Renegade would be like, we take over the universe with our time-traveling powers. That'd be
like the
Renegade.
first option I see is kind of like using the thing to reset everything to
I'll be
how
right
it,
back.
how it should be, and not kind of putting things to the proper
Factory
world
reset.
from Dragon Age. Huh?
Factory
How
reset.
Dragon Age default world is the first option, right?
Going back
So,
to the
if we-
going back to the timeline that you're familiar with is option number 1. Going back to the
Yeah.
actual original timeline is option number 2. That's the one you're not familiar with, because the one you're familiar with has already been altered. And then sticking with
Right,
the way
okay,
things
so-
are now that you've killed the Archdemon and the Blight's over, that's option number 3.
Yes. So I'm saying, wait, which? Because one of those options sounded like one of the options, which I thought was option 1, but I might have gotten them mixed up, was the one that kind of restores to how Dragon Age universe actually went in the games.
Yes. Number
Option
1
one.
is brings it back to the way the Dragon Age origins that we as players are familiar with, but in my story, that's an altered timeline. What you played in the game is altered in this story.
Option 2 seems like the. Well, so wait, does option 2 make it so it's the universe that we're familiar with then?
That you're familiar with. I'm sorry. Option 2. Option 2 brings it back to a state that you're not familiar with, but it's the original. It is the way the timeline originally was. The timeline that you're familiar with is the altered timeline that is the story of Dragon Age Origins.
Option 2 is a factory reset format, and option 1 is just a system restore.
Yes, correct.
Pretty much.
Wait, option 1's a system restore.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's basically going back to the beginning of the story, essentially. As opposed to going back to us just our evil selves no longer being evil and living out their lives, and we're them, and that's that. We kill them and we take their place, essentially.
Yeah. And number 2 is we live out our lives in the Fade after killing his steel, and then come back to our original world.
So do we not age in the Fade or something?
No.
So we can essentially
That's going to be
extend
really,
our
really
lives by
hard.
cheating it by
Option
doing
2
this.
is going to be really, really hard if Delwyn dies of natural causes with him being an elf, and it will take him forever to die, and he'll be stuck in the fate all by himself after you guys have been reborn, and it'll be sad.
Don't worry.
No, elves don't live longer than this. They lost a long age in the Dragon Age. They live as long as humans.
Yeah, they live as long as humans.
So
I guess my only concern is what if everybody picks a different option?
Yep, that's the
We have to
interesting
figure out.
part, isn't it?
What if half of us end up staying and half of us end up, going and doing the ritual?
Well, I don't think this world will cease to exist just before we go. Just because we go, it will still exist for those guys.
Yeah.
Since our other alternate universes are still in place, I guess.
Yeah.
So, oh my head.
Both timelines would still exist. It's just.
Yeah. Oh, and
So
that's
wait, would
because
both
I have to
timelines
leave you
exist?
behind. Oh,
is
no.
that what Morgan said? Is that
The
what
thing is
Morgan said?
if two people stay or even one person stays, then if you guys decide to, take your place in the original timeline by killing off your evil selves, then what happens is the entire party of 4 isn't there to kill the architects.
Right.
Because a couple people decided to stay behind.
Right.
But if we do this,
So if we do this, we have to make sure we all are going on the same page.
But then
'Cause
the
just-
blight happens, and it still gets destroyed by Kale and Alistair, and everything's okay.
Alright. So do we want the original, the alternate, or this timeline?
I think it's, do each of us want something different?
Leoden would want to return back to things to keep his promise of finding Maelstrom earlier.
So is that the alternate or that the original?
That would be the alternate.
The alternate, which is the one that you're familiar with. Okay.
Right. Before getting sucked into
Okay.
the vortex, which would mean we have to fight. Is that so?
Although in the alternate,
That's
it's,
the thing, though. If you chose to do that and the person who had the demon wasn't with you, what would happen?
Also,
in my opinion, it seems like the best option to do. In terms of, would actually be wait and fade.
So
The thing is I'm not even looking at the best option. I'm thinking about everything that my character has gone through and going, how is he feeling at this exact moment after everything he's digested?
he's been told this he's been told all this seconds after seeing his sister die.
How does he feel knowing that he's been harboring the cause of all of this?
How does Leoden feel knowing that he was essentially the cause of the cause?
Exactly. Like, I'm not looking at this like a best possible scenario. I'm looking at this like, how selfish is my character feeling right now?
I think
That's what I'm
Leoden,
saying. I'm saying from a selfish perspective, I think the second option is the best. But I might be overlooking something.
thinking about
I
it.
feel like
I
the
think
second
so, too.
option can give the most of everybody wants out of this scenario and stuff like that. Though it is kind of greedy to kind of do this because it's really manipulating the situation for ourselves to get the best possible scenario, which feels kind of.
From an unselfish position, judging by how guilty Delwyn has been feeling, he would want to stay where he is now and live out his life knowing that the demon inside him is just slowly dying because the blight is over and there's nothing to feed on.
Well, if you stay here, the idea is you should be able to fight Gestiel here and just take him out here.
Right.
Yeah.
Leoden
Then I
would.
don't have my blood magic powers anymore.
I think actually Leoden would probably rule out option 1 because if there's one thing that, since the beginning with Cain, he is not liked being manipulated, and his own life, especially seeing his own life be taken into control by someone else. I can imagine he does not like Justiel very much right now. Now the problem is he doesn't. I think Leoden would want to do what was best for everyone, so I think option 2 would be best because it would give the world a chance to live out these last 20 years, live out these years without all that's happened.
Okay.
But what I'm curious about is, after doing this, would any of the world remember what we've done? Would we remember what we've done?
You will remember. You personally will remember.
Okay.
And we give our original selves a full lifespan.
You give your original selves a full lifespan.
We give them a favor.
Right.
Like, go on, live your lives. Don't be manipulated.
Right.
Just be you. Kill the architect, be heroes, and then we can go back and be heroes again.
Right.
So I guess I would go with option
Problem
2.
is that, corrupted or not, like, Delwyn knows how Delwyn acts.
But Justine wouldn't be involved.
Yeah.
No, I think
No more
I
Justine.
think that there's guilt though.
So
Remember,
I think that there's too much guilt with the thought of him, running around, finding a new demon, causing a new bout of trouble, being responsible for a new set of problems, all this stuff. So.
Then we'll just clean it up again.
Or we could end it permanently after we're done with the demon. I mean, Maximilian could help.
We could smack around the Archdemon and just hang out here. You got a good thing going. Delwyn doesn't exactly have anything in his other lives that ties him down to anything anyway.
What if we Hark? What if we split up? What if Delwyn decided he didn't want to go, and so Delwyn would stay here, but we would go in to fight Justine and the Fade?
I have one thing that I can note that would make the option 2 better for Delwyn.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to say because it's kind of manipulative.
But you can just come out and
Sanaya
say
would still be alive.
Right. Yeah.
To answer your question, Flemeth did not say that you couldn't split up. Flemeth didn't say you couldn't choose different options, but we'll have to see how that works out then.
Never said one way or the other how.
Because if we split up and we change the timeline, that means that the thing would never be in Guinevre's pocket, which means that he could never have done all the timey-wimey stuff, which means it's only going to be one timeline.
She's warning you.
Anyway.
Yeah, what she's warning you is that if you split up, you risk a paradox, which will pretty much defeat the purpose of what you're doing in the first place. You'll risk a paradox if you split up.
Okay.
So how about we tie down Delwyn and drag him with us?
Okay.
Screaming. Anyone okay with that? Me? No?
I'm not okay with
No,
that.
we should talk it over. Continue talking it over and so that.
How much time do you guys have left?
Conclusion why this is the best.
How much time do you guys have left?
I unfortunately probably have less than 10 minutes.
Less than 15
tops.
minutes? Okay.
2 minutes.
Do you guys want to talk about this and get an answer back to me later? Like discuss it amongst yourselves and get back to me later?
I could do that. We could do an email chain.
Okay.
Well, seeing as Maximilian is like he breaks before he bends, so he's gonna go for number 2.
And I'm already going for number 2. I'm saying it seems like we have 3 for 2 and 1 for 3.
Okay. Is that what it's sounding like?
It seems like there's a majority here.
Okay, so we'll go for 2 right now, and if you want to discuss it further, you can. And I'll currently plan for 2. I'll plan for option 2.
But I would prefer for Delwyn to naturally be on board. I would feel bad if we were trying to force the second option on Delwyn.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
See, I'm feeling like, why can't we just defeat the demon here, and then you guys can go back in the ritual, and it's all still the same effects?
Well, we did defeat.
Speaking of which, I'm gonna have Leland.
I'm sure the other Delwyn would have done something stupid enough to get him killed early. And then there won't be 2 of me.
I was gonna say, speaking of which, would it be possible for Leland to find that silver sword that was embedded into the back of the Archdemon from all the way back?
Oh, from way back when. Yeah, it's just laying on the ground after
Probably.
it evaporated into nothing.
I'll say he found it.
The options that I gave you were mere suggestions, and so if you think the suggestion that Delwyn is making makes sense, leaving Delwyn here to or defeating the demon here and then going back in time, if you feel like that makes sense, that's an.
I like that option because we get rid of
2 and 3. The demon is defeated wherever, whether it's here or whether it's in the Fade.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Okay.
The demon's
like that one,
defeated
actually.
here, and Delwyn decides to stay behind while everybody else
goes back
does
in time.
option 2.
Everybody else does option 2. Okay. Okay.
Like the risk of Delwyn creating a paradox by staying is less than the risk of anybody else creating a paradox when staying, because he kind of lives his life too dangerously to have a particularly long lifespan.
No,
Also-
but you can't leave me behind. You have to come with me.
Dude, this is
Oh no!
insane.
Oh no! Gwenaël! Ah!
But, dude, we're a
Also,
team.
remember that Maximilian is probably not gonna let Delwyn go after all this is done. So maybe it's best if he stays. After all, otherwise they're gonna
That's
clash.
true,
Bad
because
afterwards.
when they finally get back, he's going to be like, I'm going to find you when I re-enter this timeline, and you're going to finally pay for your crimes.
Yep, that's exactly what's gonna happen.